Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 8th episode. This is officially the end of the second month of Trust Issues. I think today's going to be a good one. We've got some more updates on the Clarity side to talk about, brought back to light because the revision to the bill proposed and written by the Senate Agricultural Committee is now looking like the vote might actually happen sooner than later. So we'll talk about that, what's in there. It's a little bit different. Some stuff has changed since Brian Armstrong decided to lambast the bill and took up an interesting position in opposition to quite a number of other business titans in the, American crypto space. So that was interesting. And then Emily, I'm gonna ask you to complain about it, and we'll talk about it. And then I want to have some time at some point to go through the article that you sent to the group chat earlier about Iran's impending regime reckoning and fallout, and ways to think about that. Maybe if you haven't, I think that could be interesting. So before we get too into it, I do want to acknowledge that yes, Jerome Powell did speak. I don't know if he's still going. It was a little earlier. I don't remember what time it was, but the verdict is no rate cut. It was not really a close vote, 10-2. As far as the voters on that go, there were two outliers voting to cut by 25 basis points, elected not to, saying that the economy is still showing expansion in the data, more resilience in the job market, and actually made a point to specifically state that his job, which it's annoying that he has to reiterate this every single time, his job, and leave personal opinion out of this because this is the definition of the Fed chair, whether you like the Fed, hate the Fed, whatever, I don't care. His job is to read the data and make an appropriate determination based on what it shows, not to do whatever the president wants. So annoying that they have to continually make that point every single time. But Emily.
Dude, I'm annoyed that someone just called us boring. Whatever, dog. Find someone smarter and cuter to talk to. See ya.
You can't worry about it.
Oh, I'm not. And as an aside, I can't believe I don't see more branded mugs.
Oh, shit.
As a form of sponsorship.
Hold on, I messed up. Sorry, everybody. I'm an idiot. I was in Evan mode, not Alex mode.
What does that mean?
I rugged you. That's what it means. Hold on. Wrong cable. Okay. There we go. Thanks, CJ.
Oh,
sorry about that. You're good.
Anyways.
You were talking about mugs?
I was saying I can't believe that product placement isn't more of a leveraged sponsorship position to make sure that you get talked about all the time. So
oh, we do. That's
anyways.
Actually we require that everyone who works with the show send us a mug.
Really?
It's our favorite. Yep. Arculus send a mug, Jito send a mug. I've got mugs from everybody.
Dude, someone had a sick Jito shirt and I was really jealous of it.
I know they owe me. I want them to send me one of those hoodies because I really like it. It's super subtle, a really pretty dark
Listen,
green.
I hate hoodies, but it was either you or Evan on one of your after darks that I was being annoying on, and someone had a sick Jito shirt and I was really jealous of it.
Oh yeah, I do like that. The white t-shirt with the green.
It said something on it about Jito. I don't know. I was really jealous of it. My favorite piece of crypto merch that I own is I have one of those FTX Miami shirts that looks like
oh yeah,
Miami Vice. Yeah. And I got it from the Solana headquarters in Miami when there was a party. They just had a box of them. And I was oh, sick.
I do like that. One of my favorites ever was a piece of Polygon merch that I've never seen anywhere except on Nil, who was one of our friends that used to work there, and it's Polygon, but it's written in the Pokemon font. I do really like that one.
That's cute.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe he just made it for himself though. Maybe it wasn't a.
No, it came from something because they did this whole big, really hokey, gimmicky thing where they bought a really expensive Charizard card and tokenized it for a publicity stunt, and it was a whole big thing.
I thought that was one of those MMA twin dude bros, and then he rugged it.
Which one? Oh, no. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're thinking of a different
Jake
thing.
Paul.
Logan is the Pokemon one.
Logan Paul. Okay, I don't. They whatever.
You got to
I
remember,
fucking ignore them.
one of them is the now apparently boxer that likes picking people arbitrarily out of retirement, although he did just get his shit rocked. And then the other one is the one that has a sports drink and got canceled for filming a, victim in the forest a long time ago on YouTube and making fun of it. How have you not know? That is a piece of internet lore. Like, anyone who's used the internet, I feel like, has to know about that particular cancellation.
I don't know,
Anyway,
man. Ross Ulbricht called a hit on like 8 people, and he still got pardoned, and people suck his dick all day long. Okay. Anyways,
Okay, so
like when we have fentanyl crisis, let's pardon the guy who made it. Okay. Anyways,
details. Okay.
Speaking of people not being able to tell these things apart, let's go.
You want to start with clarity?
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, so for the audience at home, oh my God, we only have 8 people. Like, tell your friends to come hang out with us. They should probably learn about this stuff. We're going to talk about all the corruption.
This is one of the many reasons that we're... So, okay, I will start with this.
We're going to rock your socks today. No, this is nuts. I finally deep dove into the crypto to the degree that into the fucking Clarity Act, to the degree that I've dove into the Genius Act and kind of played it through, and oh my God, I did not pay close enough attention in civics, and I hate myself for it. So I'm relearning, like everybody should.
Fair.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to let my dog out of my office. You talk.
You're good. Okay. So while she's doing that, couple quick housekeeping notes. One, this is the last week that we will be in this particular time slot for the show. It's just inconvenient for everybody. My Wednesdays I thought that it would be okay to cram a bunch of stuff onto Wednesday, considering it's like a lighter work day for me and I just stream all day, but my brain is just too fried to do that. So, and then it's middle of the day. It's just horribly inconvenient for everyone. So we are shifting to, it looks like, Emily, I think you and I are aligned on Tuesday evenings.
I can handle Tuesday evenings. We just talked about the time, and as long as it's in my window, it's okay.
So that's going to be the goal there. So we're looking to start that next week, but I will keep you guys posted through the circle and through the morning show, and we'll talk about it again on After Dark tonight and all that good stuff. So anyway, which does also line up with us getting into book club. So Emily, do you want to give us a plug for that starting and De Soto's choice for the first reading?
Yeah. Okay. So if you guys have been watching us, I made a little website to track our episodes. I have to put up last week's, but anyways, the key thing that I wanted the website for was so you guys could go and see what book we're going to talk about in book club and when. So on February 18th, we're going to have a different format for the episode, which isn't just ranting and discussing the things that we've discovered. It's discussing in the context of a book that we think gives a huge amount of context to what is going on in the world and kind of helps orient our perspective on these subjects as they come through. And this book is called The Mystery of Capital by Hernando de Soto. And it's on our website, linked on our website with the date on there. And I'll have to change the time, I guess, because we changed that. But the website is called trustissuespod.xyz. So you can go check that out, or even putting this out in podcast world, and we just make that up. We are? Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Everything is.
Okay. I'll have to list for that stuff. You're supposed to connect me to that person. Anyways. Okay, so you can go there. We're gonna talk about this book in depth. This book is super fascinating. I highly recommend it. It's basically a study of how capital exists prolifically in modern Western societies, and how the lack of capital is not really present in a lot of the society or the countries that are considered developing, and how that creates a difference in their power globally, and how it impacts individuals and how they're able to grow their businesses, how they're able to become superpowers, what type of change needs to take place, what is the regulatory challenge in existing there, and is blockchain and crypto actually able to help this, or are there already a mess of provisions preventing it. So that's going to be what we're talking about February 18th, Hernando de Soto, Mystery of Capital, and it's on our website, trustissuespod.xyz.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so
maybe you can comment in our TikTok.
I'm going to frame just a couple of things that we're talking about with regards to clarity, and then we can kind of pick one of the angles and dig into it. So there's a couple of things that we've highlighted specifically, but I wanted to maybe kick it to you first just to talk about what the differences are between this one and the last one, because some stuff has changed. So if you have not been paying attention, the first revision of the Clarity Act after it became market structure and was sent to the Senate after passing the House and got hacked up and chopped up and, revised and all that good stuff. Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, opposed it pretty heavily. And actually, it was his public dissent on the bill that got it pulled and sent it back to committee. After which...
Right, and... Oh, sorry.
Nope. After which the Agricultural Committee revised it again and released it again. And now we seem to be more in agreement, at least on the corporate crypto side. So what changed?
Okay, so I think that when we started hearing all that pushback, it was effectively, or when we started hearing all the pushback from Brian Armstrong, it was effectively because Coinbase would lose over $1 billion a year in annual revenue. And it has to do with taxing stable coins. Yeah. So I think the reason that he was so in favor of it before, we're gonna roll it back a little bit. I'm sorry, we have to rewind. We have to go to the introduction, the preamble. What do they call it? That's the
prologue?
Preface. I don't know. Prologue. Hey. Okay. So it's one of those days. Okay. So I want to talk about specifically, how did we even get the Clarity Act? Because I think that will help highlight how emotionally involved a lot of these core players are. And it's because, money is emotional is what it comes down to, and they're trying to protect themselves. And I think it also will highlight kind of how government works now and why we're so messed up. And then, what this huge reaction is based on how the Clarity Act was originally written and passed. And this, the Clarity Act flew through the House, and it was passed with a huge supermajority. It was 292 to 140 something.
Yeah,
you have to check my numbers.
Vote, but it was huge.
Yeah, but it's crazy. It's way crazier than the Genius Act. And yeah, we're gonna start there. Okay, so if you're following along, we're just gonna go through a timeline.
294 to 134.
Okay, so anyways, that's nothing passes. Nothing passes like that.
No.
Nothing. Okay, so oh my God, that number was right in front of my face. Okay, anyways, what I think is really important to understand here is that the House of Representatives gets reelected every 2 years, which means that the House of Representatives was constantly fundraising. And after Citizens United, the act of donations to political candidates by a corporation is considered free speech. And it also has all the provisions to form these super PACs where they can do much larger donations into a super PAC in order to then fund people who will fund their interests. And here's the thing, representatives, the entire Congress is don't forget, when these people are running for election, they're interviewing for their jobs, right? So they would like to keep their job. Their jobs are well paid. They have good retirement plans. They have very comfortable insurance. And frankly, they just don't work very much. It is a nice, cushy job. You want this job. This is a great job. Being a career politician, great job. Okay, so as a result of Citizens United, you're able to fundraise a tremendous amount of money. That brings us to French Hill. So French Hill is the person that the representative from Arkansas, who, second district, if you care, that proposed the Clarity Act. Now, what's really important to know about French Hill is that French Hill was not in a highly contested district. His opponent, I believe, only raised $57,000, and he raised $6.7 million. Okay, so you can't possibly spend that much money. $57,000 is low, on the low side. If you're in a safe seat district, your typical fundraising is something like $2 million. Okay, so his opponent, very underfunded, which made his seat exceptionally safe, especially after they gerrymandered them. And Hill, even still, raised $6.7 million. So where did that extra money go? Okay, so he won his seat, obviously. And then what happens when the majority changes in the House is that the committees change entirely. So there's a whole bunch of committees in the House, and the committees are in charge of what bills get hearings. And the entire idea is to make sure that like these bills are well thought before they go to vote, and you discuss them, whatever it is. But essentially, if a bill doesn't get a hearing, the bill dies. Okay, this matters a lot. So French Hill had all this money, and when the committees change, they have these like sort of elections, but the Speaker of the House has like 4 votes. There's only 30 votes total, and like whatever. And basically, the way that you get into a committee, or even like get to be the chair of a committee, is to make a gigantic donation as party dues. So if you make a gigantic donation, you get to be the chairman of this committee, which means that you get to determine which bills even get heard whatsoever, and if a bill just dies. And we'll come back to this later. Okay, so this is important because French Hill is the person who actually wrote the Clarity Act, and he's in charge of the Financial Services Committee, which means it's his committee's job to decide if this bill should be heard in Congress at all. The people who funded French Hill is Coinbase, A16Z, and the Coinbase lobbyist. They like took care of the majority of his funding, which, you know, makes sense considering the state that the Clarity Act entered the House when it went through its original hearing. So I think that that's like a really key component here, because he was able to take that surplus of funding and redistribute it to other crypto-friendly candidates, and to get them into his committee so they could make the party due donation. And also then he was able to make his donation to get his seat in order to make sure that this bill made it to the floor. Okay. I think this matters a lot, right? Because there are very interested parties making sure that he has the right power in place. So it gets kind of crazier when you talk about some stuff that got snuck into the Clarity Act in the first place. Like, so one of them is that this one's crazy. In order to support, wait, did you pause that on purpose?
Nope. Hold on. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So basically, like, I think you can summarize the core of the Clarity Act as intended to incentivize people to keep their crypto on centralized exchanges and disincentivize them from moving into DEXs. But there's a bunch of provisions in there about how a DEX or a protocol can declare themselves, like any of the DeFi tooling can just declare themselves sufficiently decentralized. And then the burden of proof gets put onto the SEC. And the SEC is already losing funding and being transferred to the CFTC, because the CFTC is mostly in charge of managing this. And the Clarity Act also takes $15 million from the Fed's budget and gives it to the CFTC. So we talked about the Genius Act. We talked about how this deeply harms the Fed and the security of America, but also now we're just like taking money from them, giving to the CFTC, and the CFTC is like notoriously friendly to this type of shit. Okay. There's a whole bunch of like surveillance stuff going on there. And then they did some like friendly little whatevers to try to gain votes in here. But a lot of it is just like what happens in Congress is people are just like voting to get that little extra thing, and they'll use it to like convince members of Congress who didn't fully understand the bill to get something else that they want. They're just like buying votes by sticking it in there. There's just like real no reason. And like the individual is really going to get their way. They don't care. Okay. So let's see. The thing about the Clarity Act specifically, though, that I think is really key here is that the entire structure of the Clarity Act is basically like if you just like put it next to World Liberty Financial, the Clarity Act entirely protects World Liberty Financial.
Certainly.
And then ironically, the investors in World Liberty Financial align directly with the investors of French Hill's campaign. Mm-hmm. So like you can see how these things are like starting to converge, right? And the thing about World Liberty Financial is that like if you follow along with what Trump approves for himself and makes comfortable for himself, you can fly scot-free through this entire thing, right? Like as long as you just follow in his footsteps, you'll be okay if these bills pass as they're stated. So like I find that one really crazy because like the Clarity Act is not about stablecoins at all. It doesn't affect them. It entirely affects protocols, decentralized protocols, and like determining who is decentralized, the burden of proof on the SEC instead of on an individual protocol themselves. And then it installs a bunch of surveillance state stuff into crypto and forces reporting in crypto from the centralized exchanges. So like as long as you play nice and you stay under, in the doors of the centralized exchange, the reporting is like normal. But as soon as you move into self-custody, if you move off a decentralized exchange, anything that they deem suspicious, and they don't tell you if they've reported a transaction you've made as suspicious, gets turned over to the FBI and the IRS.
Yeah,
which is like, and then there's a provision that like, oh, but it's not going to be a CBDC. like what is going on? The entire thing is just like, it's just pat and backs. Like the entire thing is absolutely insane.
Yeah, so there's definitely some like gimmicky language in there, right? Like because again, it doesn't really mean anything to say, we won't do a CBDC. And while it's true that the one that we have now is not tokenized, and you could make parts of it worse that way, like the things about a central bank digital currency, as it's used usually to scare people, already exist and have existed. And every year it gets worse the more of the dollar is digitized. So
yeah, I mean, your bank account can get frozen easy peasy. In fact, didn't ICE just like threaten somebody filming them that they're going to shut down their bank account?
Well, the specific threat, I'm not sure if maybe this is the one you're referring to or a different one, was by showing up and being there that you were able to be flagged as a domestic something or other.
Yeah.
And in that
domestic
sense,
pterodactyl, yeah.
Yeah. Some of the things that come along with that are restricted access to your money and, ways to use it and spending and all that sort of stuff. So really the point there is being as it's centrally controlled right now, freezing accounts, we've seen, that's obvious, asset seizure. Theoretically, one could impose a timeline of required expenditure. Like, hey, you've earned X, Y, and Z dollars. You have to spend at least this many of them by this point or they're going to go away. Or you forfeit the right to keep them. All that could happen. I'm not saying that is happening. I'm saying theoretically that's possible. And that's the kind of stuff that I always see tossed around as like the fear for a CBDC. I just, not to say I'm in favor of it. I'm just saying like we kind of already have a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's already existed and like bills are traceable. Like it's just not that hard to.
Yeah.
If they really feel like finding you, they'll do it. As long as they don't defund the agency.
Oops.
But wire fraud is the responsibility of the Secret Service, and they just keep getting more funding, so they're fine.
So I want to dwell on the surveillance side a little bit, because this should concern more people.
Yes.
Efforts are constantly being made, not just with regards to crypto, but in all over the place, mostly with data of different types, just to make it easier to keep an eye on you and what you're doing. And not even to say specific, like self-custody, that's a great example. So the right to self-custody being enshrined has been like an ask from the crypto community for a very long time. Let's get something down on paper that confirms everyone's right to self-custody their own digital assets and protect that. Technically, this doesn't hurt that effort. But on the other hand, we have some anecdotes and some interesting little tidbits from government officials that indicate that, like, yes, the flagging that could happen here is of a transaction leaving your account, your surveilled account on a centralized exchange, and going outside to a self-custody wallet, whether it's hot or cold, doesn't really matter. In doing that...
That's like the same thing.
What do you mean?
No, we won't talk about that. Keep going.
In that, not to say like, okay, all of a sudden you're going to get gone after, or that's a problem, or you're not allowed to, or anything like that, but just there's a note. And all of a sudden, like, as the building blocks get put into place to justify an audit or a closer financial inspection, it might be noted like, hey, this person has assets that they're keeping for themselves somewhere. We need to be mindful of that. And it just kind of, that really, really, really rubs me the wrong way. Just the fact that, you know.
Yeah, and like, for the record, you're already supposed to be reporting on that, and they could already report on it. But now there's like a new IRS form for it as well, which is like a 1099 DA. And they have to report, they have to submit this form. Every centralized exchange has to submit this form. And this form says that every sale, trade, and exchange is reported directly to the IRS. Gross proceeds and cost basis are included. Your identity is linked to every wallet address on the platform, and transactions as small as $20 trigger reporting.
Yeah, so increased. I mean, you know, and like you said, to be fair, you're supposed to self-report all this kind of stuff anyway. It's a giant pain in the ass, by the way. Like,
I know Awaken is like the only thing that can do it, but yeah.
Even there, I've been going through just like all of the specific, because the thing about that is it grabs everything, and sometimes different transaction structures, depending on what it is that you're doing, get grabbed. Yeah, you gotta catalog different ways. Like, for example,
you gotta go like match them up. Yeah, I know.
Like the one that my mom was running into earlier today was receiving.
Told me that, like,
confirmation tokens of a direct delegation to a validator. And so it
shows receipt tokens, great. Yeah.
Yeah. It shows up as a swap for a, you know, like Paul into D Paul 58 denoting a deposit to Polygon validator number 58. And like that just requires them to go in and take a look at it. But what's really interesting is that Coinly has never even begun to pick up on any of that shit. And the information taken from like a Coinbase, whatever the tax form ID number is that they give you, you know, into that dashboard compared to Awakens is like totally different. And I'm just like, dude, any of this shit is.
Can I just say that, like, the people who, like, this specifically targets the people who comply. This is not about Monero and Zcash. This is not about offshore exchanges. This is not peer-to-peer. Like,
no,
it doesn't apply to mixers. Like, it's like literally just for people who are like learning how to do it, trying to do it the right way, trying to report, and then like getting caught. And like, but the other part that absolutely kills me is like the IRS has no money. Like, the IRS has been ridiculously defunded, and like the complexity of crypto transactions is so far out of their ability to comprehend. Like, the best CPAs in the world struggle with this for so long. They'll be 25 years behind before they know it. It's absolutely insane. Coinly is trash. Okay, so that's just like another one of these things. And then they also the thing about the 1099 DA form is that if the broker doesn't have your cost basis, and cost basis matters a lot, like I got absolutely forked on this. If they don't have your cost basis, which is very challenging to trace if an asset is transferred between platforms, but specifically between centralized exchange platforms, like for whatever fucking reason, they don't decide that this is important information. They will treat it as 100% profit. They'll treat it as you got the asset for zero and you get taxed on it 100%. So like it's really difficult to prove your cost basis, especially with the way that centralized exchanges use hot wallets. So like the reality of all of this stuff that's in the that's in the Clarity Act is that like the best thing to do is to like on ramp, remove yourself as quickly as possible from centralized exchanges. Don't make a single transaction on that token beyond it. You buy it, you put it in your wallet, the end. Like that's you are off of it. And then you need to like pick what your tax platform is and like start reporting it or swap it to Monero. And like it's just like it's a crazy amount of overhead. And like Congress is famous for this, actually. Congress likes to instill a tremendous amount of surveillance and then pretend like they're in favor of a small government and then defund the committees or the bureaus that are supposed to manage it, so they can't actually afford to do any of the things that they're supposed to do. They're just drowning in it, and then when they don't work sufficiently, they get defunded more because they're like not up to snuff. So like it's literally just there to like choosily criminalize somebody who offends the current government. And like that is a very dangerous place to be. It's super Orwellian. It's absolutely wild. Like it is absolutely wild. And like let's just roll back. The only reason that Coinbase was traceably upset by it was because it was going to cost them over $1 billion in annual revenue. And they wrote it so it would not hurt them that way.
Yep. I mean, and as evidenced by the fact that they were the only one that was opposed to it.
Yeah, of course, it's absolutely insane.
I mean, it should upset even if the bill that they objected to is like, you know, arguably bad. This one is not any better as far as all of us are concerned. But it's very concerning that a single CEO can dissent to a piece of legislation and get the entire Senate to change course.
Yeah, well, I mean, he also probably wrote the legislation, and he definitely got that person elected and definitely got them put into, French Hill got him put into the chairman role of the Financial Services Committee. However, I just want to draw a little attention to what this literally means. And like one of the unique things about blockchain in general is that like the good and the money are combined into a single transaction, right? So like the good is not separate from the money. Normally the good and the money are separate, but in crypto they are bundled. They happen together. And like the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that like having that level of insight into your transactions directed to like a complete index of KYC, right? They know exactly who you are and exactly what you're buying. So like they're essentially doing everything they can to turn existing crypto into the CBDC, but they're saying, but we're not going to issue a CBDC. They're just like putting all the things in place to like unite the activity with the reporting. But like the thing is that like if you're like really paying attention to somebody's purchases, you can learn so much about them, right? And like I had this discussion when I was on a panel at like South by Southwest a few years ago, and basically what we were talking about is like what happens to your data and like how much data is being collected on you when you don't even realize it. We were talking about like those like Philips Hue light bulbs, right? Where they're like smart light bulbs and you can make them like cute colors. But the thing is like you have to have an account attached to the light bulb in order for the light bulb to make cute colors and like do the things that you program it to do. But then like also when you manually turn on those cute little light bulbs that do the cute little things in the cute little app, it records that as well, right? So like let's just say, for example, suddenly you install Philips light bulbs in your house because you're like, these are cute and fun. And then like you're turning on your bathroom light bulb and you labeled it bathroom. You're turning on your bathroom light bulb like 5 times a night. Suddenly, Philips Hue suspects that you may be diabetic before you even realize you're diabetic, before your doctor knows anything about it, right? Now we have like a HIPAA problem. And like this happens, like why the fuck would I ever want Philips to know about like my medical conditions? But like you don't realize that you're volunteering all of this data for them. And like that's kind of the thing about your spending in general, right? Where it's like if everything is tracked in this minuscule way, right? There's a tremendous amount of data in it where it's like, I didn't spend this much money at the grocery store. I spent this money on these individual 67 things at the grocery store, right? And like, why am I buying these things? Why did my purchasing change? Why am I buying more gas? Where did I buy the gas? Where exactly did I go, right? Like they know so much about you, especially as a result of the Genius Act. Because the Genius Act already gave banks and non-financial institutions the permission to wrap your money digitally, right? So they gave banks the permission to turn your standard deposits into tokenized deposits and to put them on chain. So now your activity with that bank is already highly tokenized. They can already follow exactly where you're going and they have all this data and there's nothing stopping them from putting that data on chain or for keeping it themselves if they find a good way to exploit it. And like the exploitation is outlined entirely in the Clarity Act. So like basically, Coinbase cucked us.
Pretty much.
Like they literally like took your diary and they like mass copied it and then they like handed it out in homeroom. Like they just hate you. They hate you. And they'll protect you if you leave all your funds inside Coinbase.
Yeah, well, so to be clear, this is a concept that I can't remember if we've spoken about specifically. Maybe we did. But just the idea that, in a pure or a true, or a whatever flavor of capitalism we have, the company, the corporation, whoever they are.
We have corporate socialism is what we have. But yeah. Anyways.
Point taken for sure. With regards to our relationship with the corporation, we are an obnoxious speed bump between them and our money. So like to answer a comment about this, like what's the motive here? The motive is that you have some money. You are out there like working and turning sweat into dollars. And the proverbial corporation wants the dollars. And so what do I have to do to you to get them away from you? And the biggest threat to that particular system is class mobility. It's a change in the way that you either receive or get to use dollars that break the status system. So Coinbase just is really, and I'm saying Coinbase because Brian insists on putting himself front and center with all this, and they're the biggest American exchange. But like to be clear, this is not like unique to them. There are differences between the way that Coinbase makes most of their revenue and the way that Binance makes most of their revenue and the way Kraken makes most of their revenue and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the whole point is that like you are in the way between them and more profit, because that's what the shareholders want to see. And so how do we use our power and influence as a big, very wealthy, very high revenue generating corporation to influence policy to be written in such a way that benefits me more so than anybody else? And that's the nature of lobbying, and that's why this is such a problem. And the thing to note about this is that none of this is new. This is the way that Washington has worked for a very long time, whether a Democrat is in office or a Republican is in office. Like you said earlier, Emily, right? Like
Citizens United was the huge turning point, but yeah.
Yeah. What year was that Supreme Court?
I think it was 2010.
If you'd like to read about that, the case to look up is Citizens United versus the FEC, and that's an interesting one to dig into there. But yeah, so the end of my rant
2010.
There's 2010. Okay, so really just I don't know. This is more of the same, but now it's here in crypto. That's kind of the point. And the part that I am so personally annoyed by is that like, I'm sure that we all are in crypto for similar reasons. If you're down with the ethos, that is. If it's just a vehicle to make money, then great. Maybe you don't really care because you can do that on a centralized exchange, and more power to you. Godspeed. But in general, right? Like the ethos was very like anti-establishment, very rebellious, very, buck the trend, opt out of the system, choose more personal self-control, opt for digital autonomy and sovereignty, yada, yada, yada. And here we finally got some attention from a politician. The general talking point from all of the talking heads with a second grade reading level was that now the institutions will pour in and we're all going to get rich. And then we handed the entire industry to them on a silver platter and just like signed on the dotted line without reading the fine print. And now here we are, just like everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, let's not ignore Fair Chance, right? Like the Fair Chance Super PAC is enormous, and they are explicitly in the business of making sure that crypto-friendly candidates get into office, and they get huge donations. I think they got like $263 million in donations in the last election cycle. Like that's
making them the single biggest contributing PAC in the entire cycle.
Yes. It's so, and all of their candidates got elected. All of them. So it's like, if you want the nice paying job with the nice retirement benefits and the nice health insurance for all your family and a good chance, all you got to do is cozy up to Fair Chance. You got to say, hey, I love crypto. Put me in, coach. And they're like, yeah, let's go. Like the whole thing is crazy.
Yeah. My particular beef with the way that all of that was presented, and this was my particular issue with, again, not to spend too much time calling them out specifically, but with Stand With Crypto, was this candidate scoring mechanism, which I'm waiting to get some insight into because it was awful. But effectively, like without any consideration for the nuance of the specific policy or bill, there are just kind of like these labels assigned to legislation that Congress or the president or any government body has faced or grappled with that's either quickly pro or anti-crypto, regardless of what's in it. Because so Genius and Clarity are both widely regarded by all of them as being pro-crypto, even though you could very easily make, oh yeah, oh my God, come on, that's not.
They're okay, hold on. They're like the biggest anti-crypto bullshit I've ever seen in my entire, like, they're like more anti-crypto than like your boomer ass grandma. Like what?
But
anyways,
that's not the point though. That's never been the point.
Of course not. No. That's better.
The point is not
Silly
to
me.
read
Sorry,
the
my
bill
bad.
and recognize the nuance. The point is that like, hey, this one is supposed to legitimize some aspect of the industry, and that's all we want. We don't care what it looks like.
Well, that's all Ripple gives a shit about.
Sure, and any giant company who uses crypto as a vehicle to make money, regardless of alignment with the ethos. So that scoring mechanism that PACs like that then relied on to fund the correct candidates to get stuff like this written was horribly slanted, because the independent or the progressive or the libertarian or the Democrat or the Republican that chose to like abstain or, God forbid, vote against a piece of legislation that, let's give them the benefit of the doubt for a second and say maybe they read and were like, this feels bad. Like maybe one of these mystery politicians reads Clarity and they're like, bad. Don't like it. Too much surveillance, too much focus on this. I think it's going to set up a DeFi protocol to get killed by litigation, whatever. And they chose to abstain or chose to vote against it, as maybe you and I would prefer that they do. Maybe we've even written to our representative and asked them to vote against something like this, and let's say they did. Immediately, their score goes down because they're not voting in favor of this, quote unquote, on the bumper sticker, pro-crypto legislation. Even if they think it's bad, and even if what they ultimately want is like DeFi to flourish, or you to have more expanded rights for self-custody.
To fund you, and Fair Chance is going to fund you if they're, and like, okay, can we just say, like, the craziest thing about giving people like a grade like this is that, like, okay, my daughter is 8, she's a 3rd grader, right? I live in California. Education is run by the state. If my daughter gets a bad grade in something, the entire staff of the school that she comes into contact with is like, how do we make this grade better? Let's make her more educated. Let's give her more resources. Can we give her extra attention in XYZ subject? Is there a program we can set up to capture all of these kids who need more education? for, one of the teachers or whatever that's already here, or already working with students like this? Is there something we can do to change the way your material looks? Like whatever. And ADHD is genetic, whatever. Okay. So anyways, but when you get a bad grade, it's not just like, nah, you suck. It's literally like, oh no, you're falling behind. How do we close the gap? Right. And that is just a huge difference, and just an enormous ideological difference where they're like, bad grade, F you, right? Instead of how do we educate this person to make, it's literally like No Child Left Behind for crypto education in Congress. It's so stupid. I can't handle it. It's so stupid.
It is in every sense a toddler's interpretation of legislative literacy. And it demonstrates absolutely no understanding of any of the nuance. I mean, I know I've said this a billion times, but nuance is dead.
It's ghoulish.
It's just stupid.
It's very stupid. They're like, you don't know? You're out of the club. We're going to make sure you don't even get reelected. Like, dude, what? That's not good.
Yeah, no, it's obscene. So I would really love to participate in changing that, honestly, because it's terrifying that we are reducing it so. And I mean, to be fair, that's why we've landed here. Think about if you want proof, undeniable, irrefutable proof that none of this is what it purports to be. Look at the basic, defined platform of the progressive and the libertarian specifically. In theory, on paper, progressives and libertarians should be screaming DeFi from the rooftops.
Yeah, they're also same at this point.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and these political party labels mean almost nothing at this point. We've skewered that so aggressively. But if you ascribe more to the libertarian point of view, which would be like, hey, smallest government ever, leave me alone, let me live my life, don't mess with me, I won't mess with you, coexist peacefully, kind of a thing. Okay, great. If I make the decision to opt out of your financial system and participate in my own or this community's or that group's or whatever I want, that's my right. It's my money. I can do what I want. It's my money and I want it now. Mm-hmm. And on the other side, if you have the progressive...
It's very Veruca assault, yeah.
And the progressives purport, again, to be what? Anti-big bank, pro-people, anti-establishment. All of these things are what the bumper sticker in the brochure says, which would also indicate to me that you as a candidate, if you, align yourself with the Progressive Party, you're probably really into DeFi, because nothing gives more power back to the individual taken away from the central bank than giving them a vehicle to opt out of it and participate in a decentralized financial system. You should be all over that, right? Oh, no, that's a scam. Oh, interesting. Which lobby pays for your re-election campaign? Oh, the banking lobby? Oh, interesting. Okay, that's also bullshit.
Can I just say, though, that, the concept of small government is just not realistic. It takes a certain number of people to make sure that things are happening, right? If you've ever managed a team of people, there is a finite limit to the number of people that you can literally manage to make sure that stuff is able to happen. And it's somewhere around 12. That's when you're getting really thinned out. Okay. And the thing is that there's 340 million people that live in America. So here's where the biggest difference is at this point. It's not big government, small government. It's what is the government doing to help? And are they helping corporations or are they helping citizens? And that's where we're at. Do you want the government to assist in corporations and their ability to succeed? Or do you want the government to help citizens and their ability to succeed? It's got nothing to do with the size of the government, the amount of money that's going to be spent. It will be spent. Will it help the people that live here? And will it make a more educated populace so you can enjoy living in a more educated environment where people are more productive, right? Or do you want to ensure that the corporations are able to take as much advantage as possible? and that's honestly, that's what it comes down to, because there is a set amount of management that you can do as an individual to ensure that like all of this stuff happens. I was talking about this earlier, right? Where it's like, okay, they go on and they say, yeah, we're gonna like put all these rules and reporting and stuff in place, but like then what? There's nobody left to like manage it. It doesn't even matter because they like defunded it, and then they put a bunch of 22-year-olds in charge of it, and they like leaked all your social security data.
Likely, that's been now proven and admitted.
No, I didn't say likely. I said then they leaked it.
Okay.
Yeah, but like it's just like dude, what? Oh, I know. It's like the entire thing is just so crazy to me. And this is the part that I can't get over, is that like the amount of oversight and legislation proposed in the Clarity Act, excluding stable coins, which is like ready to do the biggest damage ever, is that like everything that happens in stablecoins, everything that was provisioned and allowed for in stablecoins under Genius, is the type of stuff that like banks do to harm you in your future, right? Like there's all kinds of stuff happening, right? There's literally payment for order flow happening. They are taking your order and they're giving it to a Mev bot, and they're saying, hey, can you take some off the top here? Good, cool. It's this guy's retirement fund, but no, whatever, he doesn't matter. And like that's literally what is able to happen in all of this stuff. And like all of these laws are literally just applied to like decentralized finance. They're not being applied to the places that are harming your future financially.
Well, so again, I think this is a good instance to drill down on something you brought up before we even started, which was the unfair application of pressure on DeFi. It actually, in a really beautiful way, and I mean the morbid kind of beautiful here, to specifically dissect a threat while making it kind of hard to argue in opposition to it. And what I mean by that is, if you take up the position right now that you wanted to be anti-Clarity because in your head, right, you can recognize that this is a threat to DeFi as an institution.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to say, I don't want the KYC and AML requirements that are being proposed in Clarity to apply to DeFi protocols because I want to go do malicious, nefarious things with my money. Not that I want to be able to exist with sovereignty and autonomy. Like, no one has time to listen to that explanation. Instead, you all of a sudden get backed into this corner where it now sounds like you're defending money crimes. And what's really interesting about that is that we don't have that conversation ever about central banking. And if anyone wants to take a guess at what the ratio of like illicit criminal spend in crypto compared to illicit criminal spend in dollars is, spoiler alert, it's a very, 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 very tiny amount by comparison on the crypto side.
Listen,
not to say it doesn't exist and doesn't deserve to like have something done about it, but those already, like all vehicles already for that already, like chain analysis efforts already exist. Participation with law enforcement already exists. Law enforcement agencies already have a method for tracking illicit blockchain transactions and money deals and going after who they find out to be guilty of it, the same way that it does everywhere else. But for some reason, we're like dying on the hill of legislating it to death when we don't care at all about money laundering in dollars.
Yeah, and like for the record, all of those pterodactyl organizations are like, no, not crypto. No, I will take cash, I will take weapons, I will take food, I will take vehicles. Like they don't want crypto is traceable. Like they don't want that. It's not. It's bad. It's honestly bonkers. And like I said, it's not. These laws are written to find the law-breaking citizens, but they're targeting law-abiding citizens.
Yes.
And
which is the case for most laws, right? Like,
yeah, it's just, oh my God.
To your other point, if what you're doing at the same time is kneecapping the enforcement agency from being able to do the thing, then it really doesn't matter. because again, the only
Yeah,
person
well,
you're
like,
hurting is the law-abiding individual.
yeah, like, I mean, you know what facet of the IRS got defunded when Trump was inaugurated, right? It was the facet that manages businesses that make over $10 million a year. It wasn't the facet that like goes after individuals. It was for like businesses that make enough money
To donate to stuff, perhaps.
Oh my god, it's so crazy.
Okay, so
So like
practically,
it's oh my god.
practically, what are you to do? What are we to do as individuals? You see this, you're frustrated by it. Like, what do you do?
Well, okay, so for one, if the Senate changes the verbiage in a bill, it has to go back to the House to get approved again, right? Like it has to go through consistently. And I like there's just no way with the amount of people that want to get their job again in the House are going to pass the Clarity Act as it stands. They will not. However, like what I really think, if you're talking from a legislative perspective, you have to educate a equal percentage of candidates in understanding what's going on here and like how these things are really impacting their base, right? Like their electoral base. It's not just like, oh, I can slap my face on a poster more around town, or I can like run a commercial, or I can like, start like a defamation campaign against this other individual. It's like, God, I don't know. I mean, part of it is literally just open your eyes, man. Like you cannot be a single issue voter. You have to think these things through. I think single issue voting really kneecapped us overall. That was like a huge issue where someone was like, well, I don't care about anything else they say as long as they agree with me on this one thing. And it's like, dude, that person hates you. You just happen to align with them on this one singular issue, right? It's like, oh man, we're both wearing green shirts today. Cool, I'll vote for you. Like that's wild, especially because a lot of the stuff that single issue voters are voting on is not stuff that will ever be brought through by the committees who decide what bills get discussed or not. Like it's just absolutely wild. And if it's something protected by the Constitution, to make an amendment to the Constitution, you need like a tremendous majority of votes. And like it's just not a reality. Like people are just being so distracted by like puppies and rainbows that they're missing how they're being attacked on a daily basis. And like it's really hard to tell people with their eyes closed that it's time to open their eyes because like that dream is cool. Right? Like, oh, this is fun though. I don't want to leave. This is, don't get me out of bed. This is super pleasant. But like ultimately, that's it. That's the problem. Like as an individual, I mean, I don't know, open a Swiss bank account, dog. Like offshore it. Go get some other passports.
Well, of course. I mean, even going back to the Obama administration, there were rules put in place that punish people for going offshore if you can't afford to do it with gajillions of dollars and, pay your way to doing it sneakily.
Yeah.
You get punished for that. So
I know.
On its face, you would think that it would like, I would think that it'd be really easy to agree with the idea that single issue voting usually leads to more problems, and like often it does. But I think that also can't be the fault of the voter in like the nuance there would be that often people get trapped in this position wherein TikTok, wherein they are forced because of some sort of like impending really dire circumstance to take every effort to like protect themselves from one thing. And maybe that is like a single issue. If you were to like find you'd it's just shitty to live in a scenario wherein you have to determine which of the things that could hurt you are going to do the most aggressively and the quickest. And I just don't remember really a time when I wasn't voting towards the lesser of two perceived evils. So it's just unfair. I just think it's unfair.
It's like, and the thing is, with the amount of funding that these candidates get and the lack of time that the average American has to put into researching this stuff. Like, it even took me a few weeks to get into the Clarity Act and like really deep dive it and like understand where these provisions are. And then like, you know, as soon as a provision to it gets introduced and they're from the party that's not currently in power, the committees will not allow a hearing on it. And it's going to be stuff like the president isn't allowed to steal money directly out of your pocket. And they're like, no, that's cool. We like that. Keep that. And like, it's just, good Lord, get off of XRP. What are they doing? Anyways, it's just like this crazy, it's this crazy nightmare world where it's like your vote doesn't impact it because you're fighting against the richest corporations in America. And like, all they have to do is take all of their money and look at all of the data that you already gave them, and they can figure out how to emotionally exploit you if you show up to the polls at all. Like, the amount of education it requires to be an informed voter is so challenging.
Yeah, you could say it's almost impossible at this point.
It is impossible. It is. And on top of all of that, we have like all of these monetization mechanics for social media, which is literally designed to like suck your time and life right out of your fingers and your money. And the people that get the most views are the people who have the most controversial takes. And half the time they're just rage baiting, but people don't know the difference between, like, the number of times that I see someone take a skit off of TikTok where someone is being like clearly ironic, like the scenario they're presenting is so insane, and then it gets like put onto Twitter and they're like, this is how people are spending their welfare dollars, and you're like, what, dude? No, that is obviously satire, and you lost the plot because this person was making content that works on this platform, and then you took it out of context and you recaptured it and you put it into a rage bait context, and now you're getting promoted and people are misunderstanding that this was a joke in the first place because you took it out of context, and like that stuff just spirals, and in the meantime you gave up all of your freedom to transact. Like, can I just like buy a box of tampons without the government caring whether or not I've reproduced enough children in my lifetime?
No, not anymore.
Like, my God, it's insane. So I don't know.
Okay, so again, like this tangent started with the idea of practicality, and there's still nothing practical about it.
Oh my God, I know, right? I know, right? So like, okay, so if I was really going to do this, what I think I would do as like a grassroots effort is I would try to make a very simple political cartoon that highlighted how crypto can help constituents and the dangers of the current legislation, and get it in front of the candidates with bad, or the members of Congress with bad crypto ratings, right? Like, you basically need to get them to understand that, like, if done properly, this can help everybody. But the problem is all of the legislation in place is making just like a more fun environment for big bank activity. So like, I mean, I think it's like doing your best to educate your local representatives. And like, I remember I tried to do this once where I was talking about like DeFi protocols and teacher pensions with like my local congressman. And he was like, we don't want to introduce that kind of risk. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? Teacher pensions were invested in Enron. Like, what, dog?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When I think about a practical step, if I'm being purposely reductive, and the disclaimer that I would make before saying all of this is that I fully understand and recognize that there is really no perfect solution. There really is no... I say this out of a desire to not fall victim to like analysis paralysis, or being trapped by the idea that no matter what you do, you are still in some way participating in like something negative. You know, the TV show The Good Place is the perfect like embodiment of this basic concept. Which, have you seen it?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so yeah, this basic concept that like, hey, no matter what you do, even if your intentions are pure, you have participated in something awful, even if you did it completely unknowingly. So for me, like,
I mean, no good deed goes unpunished, right?
certainly. So getting stuck, like it's you hear all this and you're like, okay, well, I feel really stuck. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
You know, I would effectively need to like go back and get a full like bachelor's, master's, PhD level amount of education into all these different to even begin to have.
Don't do that. You'll never crawl out of the loans.
You know what I mean.
Anyways.
I made the disclaimer so that you wouldn't get me with one of those. Because, like, yeah,
sorry.
Nothing works. Everything sucks. Nothing works. Everything sucks. Okay, there's the disclaimer. So you'd have to go learn a tremendous amount of stuff in order to understand enough to, like, analyze everything being put in front of you and make, like, an informed decision about it. And by the time you get to all that, you're going to have died of old age. So there's no point. Okay, so pick something tackleable. Are you asking me, or is this rhetorical? Rhetorical, and then I'll ask you. So the fixation that I'm on right now is, okay, we exist in an economy and a society that is driven by need, acquisition for need, based on need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have a certain amount of expenditures that you are forced to make through the income that you collect from your job because you have to. You have to buy food. You have to live in something that shelters you from the elements. You have to be able to get to and from the job that you need to fund the other necessities.
Gotta pay taxes.
You have to pay taxes. You have to pay for healthcare because God forbid something happens to you. You have to take care of children and family members who maybe can't do it for themselves. You have to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, what is effectively happening to is that you get bled dry by a system that was purposely constructed that way to keep you always needing things and to keep all those things that you need always getting more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what's the first thing that you need to be able to do? Two things. One, analyze all of your expenditures and try to figure out if there's anything that can be adjusted that it would be qualified as an overspend. I try to do this every time I get to the end of a month and look at what went out, what came in, look through everything that went out and think to myself like, okay, could I pick one of these things to tackle right now and figure out some way to make it more efficient? If yes, great. If no, okay, chalk it up to a need and move on. And then after that, it's like, okay, well, what do I have left over and what am I doing with it? And now we get into the conversation, which is why DeFi is so magical, because you really don't have very many options in the traditional financial system. You just don't. It requires more startup capital to begin investing through an accredited brokerage. It's gotten better, but like even when I first, which was not that long ago, started buying shares of an S&P 500 index fund through Charles Schwab in my Roth IRA, there was a minimum purchase and it was hundreds of dollars. And if you didn't have that to get started, guess what? You don't get to invest. Bye-bye. And everything that you can do to help break down like that barrier of entry, which crypto did by demolishing the barrier with a sledgehammer and a satchel of dynamite, hence the threat. That's like where I start. So even if the solution is not like perfectly decentralized, even if it's not really DeFi, even if it's really like just a different bank that's set up and is doing something else, but at least they're paying you a respectable interest rate on a savings account. You know what I mean? Like it's still a baby step wherein now you're participating in something that at least treats you like a little bit more of a human being that matters. And I think that's like the practical first step. And then it can snowball and you can allow it to snowball.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Man, how do you move out of the company town?
That's okay. That is such a good question, because even if it's not just company town, the idea that like mobility as an individual, that was someone yelling at a dog. I don't know if that came.
I know.
Okay, so you live in a place where you've now realized like, okay, I am stuck. This is a problem. Because of where I live, I can't do this. I don't have access to this. That's really expensive. This is unachievable. I don't even have a grocery store that sells this nearby me. I only have this, whatever. So many things. But the beyond prohibitive cost of relocation just makes it not feasible. I mean, again, just the biggest threat to the system as it stands is class mobility in any direction.
Yeah. I mean, that's a feature. It's quite obviously a feature. But you know, this kind of brings us full circle back to our book club that we're doing on February,
yes, it does.
Not February 18th, right? Because February 18th would have been the old time. It would be February 17th. Anyways, so it brings us back to the book club that we're doing on February 17th. And I think a lot of it has to do, like, this is kind of exclusively in America, is understanding the difference between money and capital and what you can do with your money versus capital. And like, you can't lose the mindset that, like, if you spend your money on things to make it look like you have a lot of capital, you will have less of it. And it's capital that creates class mobility. It is not money.
Yes.
Even if you are a very innovative doctor, even if you invent some life-saving surgery, right? Like, you're only going to make so much in wages over your lifetime. But if you don't use that money to purchase capital, right? If you spend every single one of those dollars that you've created from, writing books and speaking and teaching and performing the literal surgeries and, showing up to work every day, if you just spend all that dollar, you're like, nah, I bought a house. I bought a flashy car. Oh, actually, I wanted a new flashy car, so I got a lease. And then I just gave the money, right? And then you're like, well, this person is wearing cool clothes, so I need to wear cooler clothes, right? Like, if you're taking your money and you're buying ultimately stuff to fill the landfill instead of buying capital assets, then the class mobility evaporates. Class mobility is entirely the result of access to capital. And in America, and again, I reiterate, we're going to talk about this book on February 17th, The Mystery of Capital. America uniquely, and Western society uniquely, has very good access to capital. And you must take advantage of that in order to get yourself out of the hole that you're in. But the problem is that we've defunded a lot of education. Wages are stagnant. The federal minimum wage hasn't gone up since 2007. All of these things compounded makes this absolutely crazy effect that we're stuck in, where you're stuck on a hamster wheel because every single dollar that you make is just going right to the electric company, right to the grocery store, right to your car payment because you wanted a big dumb truck. Instead, you're not able to save, one, to make sure that you're not a burden on your children, right? When you're an old person who has retired and you become a financial burden on your children, you are eliminating their ability, their class mobility. You sucked their class mobility into your poorly planned body. That's what happens there, right? So if you're a parent, the number one thing that you can do to ensure that your children have a chance at class mobility is to not become a burden on them financially at the end of your life. But beyond that, you need to understand that if the car gets you from A to B, you don't need a fancy car. You get to go to your job, and then you can pocket that extra money to make sure you can repair your car, or you can afford a new one when the time comes. You can buy tires so you don't end up in some crazy crash when you hydroplane, and then you have, bankruptcy inducing medical bills until the day you die, right? All of these things happen, and it's just impulse, right? And every single time that you're on social media, you're being preyed on by these people trying to exploit your impulse and oh, I'm depressed, I don't want to think about my life, I'm going to sit here and doom scroll. And you're like, oh, that's a cute shirt. Oh, I wonder if I should read that book. Oh, that looks like fun vacation. I could use a vacation, right? All of this stuff goes through your head as you're doing it, and then you're spending it on a credit card, and your credit card's interest rate is 25%. And all of this stuff is just it just compounds. And I think something else that people ignore is lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is so easy to ignore, right? I remember when I was in college, I was living off of between the money that I made myself and my Pell Grants and stuff, I was living off $1,300 a month. Important to note, though, that my rent was $900 a month. So I was covering all of my expenses, right? I was covering my share of the electric. I was covering my cell phone bill. I was fortunately still on like my dad's health insurance because that was like once Obamacare hit and you got to be up to 26 years old to be covered by insurance. Otherwise, I would have been paying like, X number of dollars to the university per month for health insurance. But like my food, my gas, my clothes, my partying, all of it was coming out. All of my bills, right? My electric bill, my water bill, all of it was coming out under $400 a month, right? But like, if I think about living on $400 a month beyond like my mortgage currently, like I wouldn't make it half a fucking day.
Oh God, no, yeah.
Because my lifestyle expanded. Yeah, my lifestyle expanded to fit my wages, right? And like I feel that I work too hard to scrub my toilet, or like whatever it is, But there, right, and like I can afford to have a pool, so I want a pool, right? Like all of these things, or like I want to shop at the fancy grocery store because I can. But like that's taken into consideration with like, am I still increasing my wealth in the form of capital? And not my wealth in the form of shitty knickknacks that my child will have to deal with when I die. Because like those shitty knickknacks are going to ruin your life.
And then of course, in conjunction with that, there's like the push and pull of the idea that you need to at least have some modicum of enjoyment in your life or you're going to go insane.
Of course.
And it's nearly impossible to achieve any level of enjoyment without spending money, which then gets used. I mean, if you've ever watched an episode, now this is an extreme example, I'm aware before I say it. If you've ever watched an episode, and again, okay, I have to give you so many disclaimers because I know you're immediately going to say something. Yes, you. No. I'm not saying that this particular content creator is like good or bad. There could be a whole debate about it. This is just an example. Caleb Hammer and the people that come on his show. So he became popular for hosting this like podcast show kind of a thing, wherein someone who's just in an awful place financially like comes onto his show and he is supposed to be like auditing their finances and helping them get their shit together. And mostly what he does is pick like the most aggressively off, like bad examples of someone who's just doing terrible, no fiscal responsibility whatsoever, and then just bullies them on his show because they're not receptive to being told that they're doing something wrong. But the justification that they always give for spending way more than they can afford is, well, everything sucks, I'm broke, and I might as well enjoy myself. And even if these like have extreme examples wherein like, yeah, but $10,000 a month when you don't even make $5, is that really like, does that really make sense? And putting it on a credit card compared to the realization like, hey, that's a real reason you should be allowed to like do and say that. But I think the shittiest part about the entire system is that you just don't have room.
So, okay. Yes. Agreed. You don't have room. However, I think that people have been psyoped into what is enjoyment versus what is fulfillment. And they are different entirely. Okay. So like enjoyment is dopamine seeking, short-term good times, right? And like I'm into experiences. I think that's good. But like the joy you get when you click purchase and the joy you get when you do your unboxing, that's kind of where that ends, right? Versus like fulfillment, where it's like I made this thing, I grew this thing, I cooked this, right? Like those things where it's like I used my hands and my brain and I got a thing after it. And I took the time that I have and I helped somebody be better, right? Like I think that there's a lot that you can do that is fulfilling, that makes you happy in a way that people try to get through purchasing. And I think that is like a huge difference. And I know there isn't much flexibility. And I know you're fucking tired, dude. I'm fucking tired. We're all fucking tired. And like if I'm tired, I can't imagine how tired someone is who's working like a full-time job and a part-time job and a side hustle. Like that's a nightmare. But like at the same time, like I do still get enjoyment out of like saving the seeds out of my bell pepper and then germinating them in a wet paper towel in like a piece of Tupperware and then like planting them in my garden and like growing my own bell peppers. Like I find that very enjoyable. And all it takes is like a little bit of water. And like if you're composting, now you got some freaking dirt, right? Like, okay, cool. You can put it in you can literally put it in like an old cardboard box. Like that's fine. That'll work, right? Take your Amazon box and put dirt in it. Now you have a planter. Okay, so like I think that stuff is really really like fulfilling, right? So it's like, oh, I get to like go check on my little plant, and then I get to like yell at some squirrels, and then I get to like water it, and I get to watch it flower, and then I'm like looking on the internet for like, what the hell is this bug eating my plant, right? Like whatever. That stuff is like fulfilling. Or like, here's one that I feel like people deeply miss, and it makes me sad as shit. I love folk art. Folk art, I feel, is really important, especially to like the zeitgeist overall, right? And because folk art is explicitly things that you make from the materials around you in a current time. And it's mostly supposed to be stuff that's recycled, right? Or waste or whatever it is, and you turn it into art. So you're not buying paints and paintbrushes and canvases. You're taking your cardboard and you're cutting out little pieces and you're making some like crazy political message into a collage, right? And then you're hanging it on your freaking wall, or you're like selling at the farmer's market, right? Like these things are super interesting. And that in and of itself is really soothing. You're not doom scrolling. You're not clicking by. You're not, just like stuff in your face with junk food, whatever. And I think the reason that they don't talk to you about this stuff is because they can't get anything from you for it.
Certainly.
Foraging. Me and my daughter go like mushroom foraging often. And it's like very fun. And like you're out in nature, you're crawling in the dirt, you have like some stuff you can eat as long as you definitely know exactly what it is, and you can win a debate against somebody about why it is what you think it is. Don't just like eat that shit and then you cook it. Very important. But like that is a really fun way to spend your whole freaking day.
So I will land the plane here as we are just about out of time to say.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I love that we somehow ended up on foraging for mushrooms out of practical advice to deal with the crushing monotony of the economy of necessity and need draining you of everything you have.
Dude, just like don't donate all your free time to the overlords that are taking your data and selling it to people and funding these fucking super PACs. But anyways.
When I was in undergrad, I had a biology professor that was a really big fan of mushroom foraging, and he had all of his little secret spots and stuff. And he used to tell us stories about that all the time. He celebrated, there's like one of those obscure holidays, like National Donut Day or something, but it's National Fungus Day. And
okay.
he would always there's a very famous gigantic mushroom in Crystal Falls, Michigan. It's gigantic. It's like a single organism or whatever, but it covers like acres upon acres. It's gigantic, a huge network, all one organism. And it's called the Humongous Fungus of Crystal Falls. And he used to wear this Humongous Fungus of Crystal Falls sweatshirt every National Fungus Day, and it was a whole big thing. Had a whole lecture once about how technically it's like biologically sound that Mario eats that little like red and white spotted mushroom and gets really big. But
that's like an amanita. Don't eat that shit. But anyways, yes. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, my dad met him, and he had been talking about like finding morels, and my dad was like trying to get out of him where his morel spot was, and he got so cagey and immediately like shut down and wouldn't say. And that's funny.
He like turns into an addict. He's like, no, I'm gonna do that, guy. Look at the time.
That was his zen thing. Really and morels are expensive.
Listen, do you know what the only places I've ever found morels is like in the parking lot of a grocery store that just got remulched because they like hitchhiked on the mulch, and literally same scenario in my own backyard. That's it. That's the only place I've ever found them.
I found like 2 little tiny ones in my backyard once as a kid, and my dad like made this whole big show of making a sauce. There was like this much. It was like enough to fill one really single spoon. But like, hell yeah, my God, he went all out. Like turned those 2 little things, reduced them down, did the whole sauce. It was delicious, but itty bitty little bit.
It is
okay.
Yeah. Anyways, yes, the best way to fight back.
The best way to fight back is to allow yourself to be okay.
Yeah, and like I think a lot of it is like you just, ironically, here we are on social media, but like, dude, put your fucking phone down. The thing is absolutely cooking your brain, and the only thing they're getting from you is your data so they can sell it. Like,
We say
that's
to people watching us on the phone.
crazy. I know, but like literally, like I think there's a big difference between like rotting your brain and like educating yourself. Those things are
For sure.
different, right? Like people are basically watching us have a fireside chat over how they're trying to get you, and this is how it works in Congress, and this is the consequence of not learning and not voting, right? Like that's important. I don't think that this is equivalent, but like someone like selling you some shit that like you got along your entire life for, and now you feel like you need it, dog, no. And ironically, the stuff that you will really find fulfilling is nowhere near a device ever. So
Certainly.
yeah, it's just, I don't know.
So
Just we
thanks
dog.
again to everyone for hanging out with us today. Hopefully, if nothing else, I think, I know that conversations like this can honestly be like hard and exhausting to listen to, because it's easy to come away from it rather, with, a feeling of existential dread and defeat. And I think that's natural. And I guess if I were to try to encapsulate what I would love for people to take away from it, it's like, you shouldn't feel bad about that. You shouldn't feel like isolated or alone because of it, because it's been constructed that way, like on purpose. And there is no other way for you to like exist in the system without realizing that it exists and then feeling bedraggled and exhausted and tired and defeated about it. And that is why we do what we do, to try to help, shed some light on it, because it's sad and awful, and it only exists because our complacency has gotten to the point where we're too tired to not be complacent about it. So in that sense, Emily, I appreciate you as always for spending time with me here today. We are going to shift to the new time slot for next week, which looks like it's going to be on Tuesday evening, and I will post about it in Circle, and we'll talk about it on the morning show and After Dark tonight to confirm times and all that good stuff. And then
Sweet.
coming up soon, finally, the discussion of The Mystery of Capital by Hernando de Soto. Looked like it's going to be on, what you say, February 17th?
Yeah, because we're moving to Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays, right? So yeah, it'd be February 17th.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right.
I'll update her thing.
Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll be back tonight in about 3.5 hours for After Dark. We're being joined by our friend Azim from Maiden. I'm excited about that, specifically to get into the conversation about privacy, which feels super topical and relevant given everything we just discussed here today. So come hang out with us for that. That'll be fun. And then I'll see all of you guys for next week's episode of Trust Issues, number 9, on Tuesday evening.
Yay.
And specific time TBD, but I'll let you guys know soon.
Yeah, but Lindsay should be back, which is cool.
Yes, correct.
We miss her.
Right. I know, me too. She's always a treat to have on, and we right now have her every other week, but we'll see. Maybe we can bully her into doing more.
Oh, I love peer pressure. It's one of my free hobbies. Okay,
right.
bye.
See you guys.